So we are back on the DPS grind for the Jupiter guys, and Anakin this time on a Junkrat, Hengi on the other sniper here with the Ash, and look, this is an interesting comp because this is usually what you'd see on something like Horizon Lunar Colony. You question how good it's going to be on Hollywood, and I guess we'll find out soon.
Just looking to line it up here, Nova. I don't believe anyone will step into that Junkrat trap. May just be wishful thinking from Amic. Oh, come on, and then twice misses the palm tree.
The tree is just kind of difficult, I guess, but
yeah. Just kept dodging him, I don't know.
If he finds a kill from this angle, I'd be very amazed, but that would be a bit of spam.
Just looking to find something. I mean, really what they want to do is just keep some pressure on and eventually force Jupiter out.
I'll tell you what, the matchup is stacked against him purely because Narissa exists, which means Hengi can just hide behind the shield for the entirety. That is unless a team can break the shield in time, and we are now seeing them aggress on top of the point.
Yikes, and that's Anakin going down to the likes of a Ting. There is at least a res, but a third came over just before that, and it's allowed a second third to come through as well. Eventually, Jupiter can't just keep hunkering down. They actually have to start pushing out onto the point.
You're seeing ultimates come online now. Pretty soon, Shailen's about 80%, so is a Ting. Well, rather, Ting's about 61, but Nova for the next kill.
Looking for something. Hengi getting picked off by Innen is really big. It just eliminates so much counter pressure and finds West Step. They demech Kenwa Haroro. Nova MS, it's like slowly but surely they just start pressuring out Jupiter. And I mean, Jupiter barely even put up a fight there. Anakin gets two. One of those is with his post-death passive.
And that's embarrassing, by the way. Ting should not feel good about that. But at the same time, look, Nova just freely walk over. Shailen denies the res that Claire was trying to get as well. So Jupiter just can't quite find the things that will work for them. Hengi now wanting to challenge the Widowmaker 1v1. Innen is very happy to take that challenge. We already won that one earlier.
Putting Anakin out onto the Tracer as well, I do quite like. Can help just put some extra pressure on the ground where necessary. So they do still have a lot of work to do to stop this payload and also just undo the damage they've done in terms of giving Nova MS ultimates.
Well, Anakin's definitely not going to be playing the Fire into Innen, but he's also not going to be, I guess, playing the Junkrat anywhere. His only other option is going to be the Brig, but there's only just Mui to deal with, so he's not too concerned about it, EMP.
Well, Mui has not been dealt with just yet, so they do find West Step.
Anakin's alive.
Himself. Hengi finds Innen as well, so even with Anakin going down now, actually, Jupiter have the upper hand in this situation. They can keep getting mileage here. This is a battle mercy, trying to go up against Mui. So they do at least repel Nova MS in some capacity.
They do, and Burner eventually goes down as well. So that late death is going to cost a bit of time, and a lot of it comes down to Innen actually losing the duel versus Hengi. Because he goes down, Hengi then converts into a second kill.
That's decent. Wow, Hengi finds another one. And that's onto his counterpart here, so
I'll tell you what, Mui was really good at shutting down Hengi. So far, Innen's been great at shutting down everyone but Hengi in the Widowmaker duel, and it's going to be big round of swaps for Nova now, going on to what should be the Sombra Goats, assuming Mui stays on the Sombra, but they will be going up against a fully charged EMP and 0 ults for themselves.
So now Jupiter, they do have an EMP to lean on, as well as a few other ultimates maybe coming in soon.
Bam.
Again, Hengi finds the picks. Misses the repel, but he's hitting heads, so counts for more.
He's finding them mainly onto Innen as well, who can't be feeling too great about this matchup so far. Nexus hacked out, Mui's barely charged up any ults, Burner down, so many members just keep getting picked out by Nova.
There's another one. Jupiter are doing a much better job of just keeping a lid on these individual members of Nova MS.
And it gives them free fight wins in the sense that every time a member goes down, Nova have to reset. Every time Nova reset, they don't get to fight, they waste more time, and Jupiter get to hold on to ultimates. They're looking more and more stacked on this defense. You're starting to believe that maybe a hold can happen.
And also because of how these fights are happening, because it's picks instead of full-on fights that Jupiter's playing. Nova MS aren't even charging up ultimates in this time. They've barely made any headway. And again, they're in the same situation, having lost Burner this time.
They got to do something about Hengi right now, because Hengi's doing so much work. Every time Nova want to push, somebody goes down. You just cannot face check him. You cannot be crossing this area without having a shield. Burner are lucky to be alive this time.
And instead, they just walk right on into a minefield plus EMP. So even as they start getting a little bit closer, Jupiter can still just keep a lid on the rotation. And again, it's not even really a fight. Nova MS aren't charging ultimates.
That, though, is also now the first, I say, decent fight for Nova. The reason I say this is because you have ultimates finally out of Jupiter. You've made West Step use mines. You've gotten the EMP out of Kimo Hororo, a decent number of members. suicided themselves into the mines to prevent ultimate charge from going away as well. So Weststep is now at 46, so he did a decent amount of damage. However, Nova are now slightly less behind.
If Anakin can charge up a pulse bomb, that could result in a pick still. Weststep stunned Hags in a lot of trouble. They commit a nano boost for him to try and buy some time, buy some life. Hengi does trade one back, but you'd certainly rather have Weststep at this juncture. But pressure onto Nexus. He's going to go down. Anakin able to get that one, and now does have that pulse bomb, tosses it out. Will find a ting with it. Brilliant placement there. Just no good way out. So again, Jupiter still just getting the work done on these DPSs.
I'm going to be devil's advocate and say a team walked into that one on purpose because they are looking to reset here. And the way you want to reset effectively, if you can't jump off the map, you want to suicide to an ultimate because dying via ultimates doesn't give ultimate charge away to your opponent. So good play by Ting to make sure he got killed by that pulse bomb. And now you've reset plenty of times as Nova now. You actually have to be looking for a fight because Mui, that sound barrier, rather EMP, was a little lackluster, only got one member. Nova still lose that fight.
Oh, now there's their EMP again coming out of Jupiter. That's a massive biotic grenade and very easy cleanup again. When it's not picks, when the fight actually breaks out, Nova MS lose so many in the rotation. Mui has traded a number back, so they're going to pump a nano boost into him again. Triple bio nade, but
they're winning.
This time Nova MS are just putting out damage where Jupiter have stopped getting picks. Now there's a Sabagod going down. Mui, again, just wanting to add to the highlight reel. So with barely any time left, they finally get back in possession of the payload.
We're in the Wild West, and Nova right now, they find the picks necessary. Deadeye's now available for Mui as well. They finally decide it's time that we stop mucking around. It's time we can't now afford to reset anymore.
Well, with the overtime beginning, Hengi does open up with a pick, and that's going to be potentially quite costly. Deadeye doesn't quite find anything. Nice flashbang, but Ken Mahororo still gives Mui the slip, who's now had to pull back a bit from the cart as Anakin goes in, drops the pulse bomb, finds a kill. Hengi with the fadeaway shot onto Burner, and now just free firing down the line, finds Mui. He can no longer output that pressure. So look, credit to Nova MS. They got back on the cart. They had a good fight, went off the back of Mui. They buy a bit more distance on B, but they ultimately will not cap.
Never try and dodge the tax man. He's coming for you.
The build
Jupiter right now is saying, hey, you got to get that one map in there. We got to take it from you somewhere, somehow.
Now watch them get full health.
It's possible, but I mean, if Hengi's hitting shots like that and no one's contesting him, Innings hopped off the Widow, at some stage, you got to be Nova and saying, Mui beat him in a 1v1, put Mui back on a Widowmaker, he'll take down Hengi for you. You got to counter-snipe the guy because you're seeing some of the shots he's pulling off, it's incredible. And Mui, look, he did a great job on McCree eventually. Too late though, very much so, and towards the end of the game, the final push, realizing they can't reset again, pop the nano on top of him. This is after barely surviving EMP Bionade. Somehow enough of them are still there to really put the resource into Mui, who gets himself 3 kills. That's the beginning of a push that came so late for Nova that they did not have time to finish the map.
Didn't get a chance to point it out, but love the chair stuck onto the grill of the car.
Last time we had a little plank of wood just stuck in one of the wheels.
Yeah. I don't know, I find these things excessively entertaining.
They are.
All right, let's watch Hengi click heads.
That was a big shot. That was like a stylish shot. That first one, by the way, was insane. He just kind of looked at it and looked away. This one is huge as well.
Burner could not catch a break, and I believe this one will be the fadeaway shot that he got on Burner. Actually, no, this is
here we go. This might
now
be
he gets the fadeaway on Burner.
Bam! Oh, it was Burner and Innen that could not get a break. Innen's even back on the Widowmaker for this. Doesn't matter. Hengi actually knocked a headshot onto Nexus, then finished him off with a body shot afterwards.
I certainly won't forget that he exists after this one.
And next week we come in. Who's this
Hengi guy? What's going on? But Jupiter going to roll out on a very similar composition once again, and look, it worked last time. I very much like this. Good pressure onto Nexus as well. They bump him off the high ground. He has to take the long way around to regroup with his team. He will live, but this gives Jupiter time to get on the point and at least get this third.
So the problem with this comp is there's no sniper. They can't deal with the fire. They can't deal with the Hengi, and eventually this defense should burst open. 2 members bionated.
Thing is, though, they were still able to find the main tank and Claire on the support, so that does actually buy Nova MS some time to at least recover and burn more time off the clock for Jupiter. Oof. Big oof.
Anakin's nearly being hunted down there, lucky to stay alive. You're looking at the ultimate challenge for Nova. Who's going to get one? Valkyrie and Nanobu's coming up soon.
Trying to find Anakin with the Hulk, keep him in the line of fire. Instead, it's Nexus who gets kept
surely
in the line of fire.
Kill. No.
Not quite this time. They still haven't managed to do that so many times now, but again, this should at least just be them standing on the point and capping a third. Now it will finally come through.
Well, that's the thing. It should be difficult for Nova to actually contest here, and they are now giving up one tick. Second tick will be coming through as well.
The thing is, unlike Jupiter on their defense, never mind. I was about to say the Junkrat nearly has Tire, but Ken Mahororo kind of puts a stopper to that one with a double on the Dragon Strike, and that alone is probably going to allow them to finish off this point. That's to say nothing if Hengi, again, just flicking heads.
You have Kim Mahororo, who's been doing a great job on the Hanzo as well, gets himself traded to Mui, so Mu will be happy with that one, but all it will do is kind of slow down this push in. This now is going to be the biggest opportunity for Jupiter in the entire series, Ilios included, to actually take him out. They have a ton of time walking to B. They got that on one attempt. Hengi still playing Widowmaker, still uncontested. Really, Mui will now try and counter-snipe. We'll see how this goes.
You ready for a Ting to just hit endless hold hook combos?
It's not going to hit on Hengi. He's too far away.
Yeah, it's the one he won't get.
Widow that got away.
Slept. Have a nap. It's like just kind of hovering. And now he's over the edge. He's alive, though.
Everyone's pumping buffs and debuffs into him the entire time. Bio-nade, anti-nade.
Slept through it all. Dude is a heavy sleeper. But that's going to be a double kill on a Rocket Barrage for Amakin. He does get taken to the ground, but he gets straight back up anyway. So that first fight, a success for Jupiter, and now it's Nova MS dangerously on the back foot.
Berna getting a trade is actually pretty big. Okay, does get taken down, but losing Amakin is unfortunate. You'd like him to still be in this fight. You'd like him to be putting some forward pressure. This is now roughly attempt number 2 for Jupiter. Still have plenty of time here. Still very dangerous territory for Nova MS.
And that's the thing, this could be the final fight, realistically speaking, and even if it's not, then every fight after that could be the final fight. Innen's already down, the Dragon Strike did get him low, and then Ken Mahororo gets the finish off, but there is a res, so Jupiter gonna have to do a little bit more than that. Nice cut off there on the supports using that minefield. Hengi goes down, Mui able to get the mileage. Ken Mahororo trades one back, but Mui back in the swing of things will find a second, and now they've started to rebuff the DPSs of Jupiter.
That was nice from Mui as well. Shot onto Sabagog, connects the headshot straight after as well. It's about the Widowmaker so far, at least on this map. They've identified the biggest carry on the team of Jupiter. It has been Hengi. Nova now have to put all the carry potential into Mui to try and shut him down. And once that happens, as soon as one of the Widowmakers can kind of get a bit of an edge on the other one, that's how the game has been evolving. But now we see Jupiter making a big swap. So we talk about them having the potential to take a map, well, suddenly that's not going to happen anymore.
Look, this is a bit of a thonker. This is where Jupiter have struggled to find much mileage, even though they should, in some ways, I don't want to say have a favorable composition, but this is a winnable composition.
It would be a favorable composition for any team to play except for Jupiter.
And that's the unfortunate reality. Ting takes a lot of pressure, but now he's got a whole hog. He stays alive. They find Shaolin, which is decent. They are still under a lot of fire. Good pressure on a Ting. Savagod goes down, though. This is still potentially anyone's fight. Good biotic grenade as they look to get around on the other side of the fight here. They still don't finish off the Lucio. Claire barely giving a Ting the slip, and the kills do start to mount. And, well, apologies extended to Jupiter on this team comp. It has paid off. I doubted it, and rightly so, but they will claim that map tax.
Ooh. Nice played from Jupiter at the end of the day. And I'll jump on that apology as well. But at the same time, you do have to understand that so far, every time that Jupiter's jumped on a 3-3 goats, it's not looked good. In fact, it's looked pretty damn awful. But this time around, they come in with a decent amount of tempo. They don't quite have ultimates in play. But also at this point in time, in this particular matchup, versus Orisa Hog, who are ground base, if you run at them with a 3-3 goats, going to be effective. They can't just run away from you. You look at guys like Mui playing the Widowmaker, you look at the Mercy as well, you're thinking, okay, these are the members that can stay on high ground and really abuse the fact that goats can't reach us. However, the members on the ground, guys like the Ting, who this time was not getting kills on the hog anymore, he just couldn't find the pick. Claire was too slippery for him, couldn't even get the Lucio. That is not going to end up costing Jupiter that final defense. But you also have to think about the offense. The fact that couldn't cap B is a big problem.
To say the least. And I think that's the reality. Like, we talk about it as map tax, but like that's what it's been predicated upon actually was like Jupiter had an incredible defense there, but Nova MS just started to totally fall flat on the offense. Like that was something we used to see back in the heyday of especially dual sniper, where like, you know, a team would be looking to set up and someone would die in the rotation and they'd end up losing the entire time on the clock because of that. But it only really happens to teams who otherwise struggled to measure up anyway. That is why it's quite alarming that that did happen to Nova MS. Now look, that particular set of compositions I mean, even though we see it more and more now, it's still not the order of the day in terms of the overall metagame. So it's not going to set off the alarm bells yet for Nova MS, but it is still dangerous. And actually, in the course of this particular matchup, it is quite dangerous because Jupiter want to stick to the DPS.
So let's recontextualize over to Havana, because now thinking about this map, you have to now look through the lens of the Infrasight, because Widowmaker has been the dominant force for, I want to say, both teams, but far more for Jupiter than it has been for Nova. And going on to a map like Havana, we say it's a good solo map. It's actually even better for Widowmaker in some cases, especially onto A. Forget about B for a second. C is also quite good. If we get onto B, Nova should be winning this one. A and C, however, assuming that C even exists in this game, because most teams don't get there, are going to be tough games for Nova if they cannot shut down Hengi, because great sight lines, super long range, super open maps. Hengi goes on Widow again, you're in trouble if you're Nova.
And you feel like the win condition here for Jupiter, if we're speaking realistic, is to hold on A, thanks to the compositions they can run, not let it go to B. If it does go to B, you see them struggling to push through B, so maybe on balance, that's...
I would say B is the point where Nova really needed to get in, because A and C are where Widowmakers are relevant.
I'm talking about Jupiter's defense there.
You are entirely correct. So yes, on Jupiter's defense, A would be ideal, or C would be ideal, because...
I would say C is less ideal.
Because they can't push to C.
Exactly.
Right.
So that's the thing. Win condition for Jupiter ultimately has to probably... And look, it's not the be-all, end-all. Maybe they do give up A, but on their push, they're able to get through B. That's not totally out of the question, but just on balance of what has and hasn't worked and what can be played where on Havana, hold on A, that's winnable for Jupiter. Don't hold on A, maybe not.
Yeah, apologies, you are correct on that one. So Jupiter is going to really need to find a way to... I'm now talking about their offense, try and get as far as they can, because they also need to be getting some inroads into B. We're assuming they'll be quite good on A if they continue to play Widowmaker and it works for them. Once we get to B, where you do have to kind of go back on the 3-3, at least try something. You got to have something that can work functionally in a tight, narrow space, low ceiling, so Anakin can't play Pharah either. That just seems like the exact point in geometry of the map that completely ruins Jupiter as a team, because everything they are good at is not good at that part of the map. So if they can somehow get through B, even get some good distance, the win is alive, technically. But otherwise, no.
I believe Jupiter will defend first as well. They have so far this series, and I believe it just maintains the same, which is, again, it's a helping hand, right? It's just another potential thing going for them here. But even then, like, I don't want to get ahead of myself, because the reality is, that one win notwithstanding, Jupiter are still behind in this series, and the win condition for Havana is still very narrow.
But not quite as narrow as the B point.
It is actually Nova defending first, so there we go.
Unsurprisingly, both teams will be starting out of the Widowmaker. It's going to be Inen versus Hengi again. Inen's been great versus everyone except Hengi, so how does he deal with the 1v1?
And that is going to be a real question, because if Hengi does pop off and gets a few kills, that'll be this entire first stretch for the payload. And
it's great to have a Widowmaker like Inen that can kill a lot of members, but if he cannot deal with Hengi, eventually Hengi pops up, like you mentioned, and takes control of the game, and so far both Widowmakers just looking at each other as much as possible.
Well, Jupiter go, hey, that whole hook looks pretty nice. They try it out themselves, they find a ting, Hengi finds his counterpart, and that's exactly what we said. Suddenly it's opened up. This will be the entire first stretch for Jupiter. The question is, will they be able to continue that further forward?
As soon as Hengi does not need to hide from an opposing Widowmaker, he can just pop out there, find any headshot that he likes, take any position on the map. You don't even have Widowmaker countering him anymore. It's just Nova going to be pushing out into open space now. Halt hook combo, see what they can do.
Ooh, good sleep onto Hengi, does alleviate some pressure.
No hook.
Don't quite find the hook there. Oh, Shailin, that's a brilliant shot and a very necessary one. Otherwise, Hengi kind of had the ideal sightlines, but that was good for Nova MS to recognize how much of a threat he posed. Nice bio grenade on Savagod and the DPS, able to get the damage.
Goodness.
But, I mean, Hengi, he gets res back in, so he still gets mileage.
This guy is literally nightmare fuel. You can't even kill him because he gets res back up, and now your whole team is in trouble.
Anakin goes down to the Dragon Strike, and that's probably enough for Jupiter here. The counter Dragon Strike not going to get anywhere near the same amount of mileage, and Hengi is still largely uncontested right now. Finds
come on!
As he's dropping down to the low ground, now just wants to run in with a machine gun to get Burner. Genmo Hororo will get the final blow on that one, but I mean, this is what we expected out of Jupiter on the offense.
I'm running out of very impressed ways to be reacting to his sniping right now.
I'm running out of noises.
I'm running out of oohs and ahs that I can possibly do.
I'm out.
He gets just a golf clap version.
And now he's going to swap off.
He has to, because we're going into B. And this is where we don't expect them to do as well, but if they do very well here, I think a win is possible.
No, Dudu is not on the team anymore. That was a really lame joke. I regret saying that out loud. I do like the Baptiste here for Anakin.
Which, by the way, is the kind of counter on the EMP once again. If he can drop the Immortality field at the right time, his team could live. It's the only option. They know it's their only option, so they got to do it.
They also do have a self-destruct, which can help create some space in this confined area. And Movie's already down. They do find Savagod, though. The self-destruct gets nothing done. So that is still enough got out of the EMP for Nova MS, and it's also important for them to charge up some ultimates here. Jupiter are in economy pushes anyway. They're not necessarily expected to win there, but they need this to not drag on into a massive defense for Nova MS.
And this, by the way, is exactly where Fire Society completely stopped the momentum of Xavier. Once the defensive snowball starts rolling, you win this fight, you get a whole bunch of ultimates, you're now charging up, you're now way into the lead. Jupiter just never come back in the series. This current positioning never really progresses, and that would be the end of their push, the end of their map, possibly.
They've got an nano. Oh, that's the
by the way.
They were looking to get that on Nexus to try and top up his health as well, and that's a little unfortunate. Ken Mahororo in and out of the Immortality field. It finally gets taken out, so Ken Mahororo still not quite D-max, so Jupiter, pause coming out, but that is actually some mileage.
It is Anakin disconnected. So,
ouch.
Yeah, I would have expected maybe Burner out of embarrassment. It's like walked into that one. It's not the, I guess he's also burning ultimates today of his teammates. Unfortunate. That's something you hate to see as an Ana player. Come on, man.
You light it up and just perfect timing. It's like I saw a video recently where it's like it was a football game, and like the goalie goes to kick it out, it bounces off the head of a teammate, the other team gets possession, they kick it towards the goal.
Amazing.
Not even joking, a dog runs in front of the goal, the ball bounces off the dog, and doesn't go in the goal.
So what? I'll ask. I was going to say, like, what then happens? But we're back in the game.
I'll post the GIF in the match thread on Reddit. Now you got a reason to look at it. Where Step goes down in the counter trade to Nexus, and that's actually decent here for Jupiter potentially, because they've still got some of the ultimates to lean on. This is a lot less decent now, losing Claire, and Ken Mahororo are going to get drilled down. So unfortunately, Jupiter, the potential birth of momentum is immediately killed.
I'm just thinking about that poor dog. That really sucks. But
it didn't look too bad. Like, the dog seemed fine.
I mean, you get kicked in, I don't know. Nova, though, speaking of looking fine, though, look at this 4 ultimates, nearly 5 for in as well this time. You're hoping the Nano goes on the right member, and Jupiter's still just stuck. They haven't really progressed too much further. You'll say the card has at least moved somewhat, but in terms of their own push, they've been reset again. They have to retake the high ground, grab us out to play soon. He's got one.
Yeah, kind of EMP and kind of Shatter, but neither actually got much done. Immortality feels pretty decent, but now the grab from a Ting, and look, eventually Nova MS, they just have way more ultimates to use, and
this, however, I will say they used a lot for it. They used EMP, Sound Barrier. It looks like at least 4 ultimates here, so Innen does have the Nano Boost. Shaolin's still working on the next rally. So Nova expending 4 for a single fight is quite costly. This is opportunity, albeit a small one for Jupiter to try and take advantage of Mui trying his hardest to get the next EMP up.
This is where Jupiter should be able to get things back underway, surely. Unless they're able to get just a crazy nano boost onto Nexus.
Weststep just dropped on the ground again. At least that forces maybe Nexus to address him.
This is some progress on the card as well, which is good news for Jupiter. Self-destruct laid forward, very nicely positioned, forcing Nova MS further back, and eventually Nexus can only step back on his own heels so much before he goes down. Shatter is out. This is a lot committed for Jupiter. It's a little bit dicey, but they are getting some kills now. That really felt like it wasn't going great. But because the card also moved about halfway through the distillery here, this could well result in a cap.
Is one more potential fight for Nova MS as we head towards the 1 minute mark. Mui does have an EMP available. I question whether Innen was supposed to put the Nano onto a Ting or Nexus, because usually you put it on your Rhine. You don't put it onto your Zarya, so maybe that was a mistake. Either way, card is reaching the final position.
I like that grab, but it's meant to result in a in a cap, but I mean, look, Burner was contesting it. He does still go down, but now the counter grab, nice immortality fields, nice transcendence. It's still a little bit weird because they did lose Ken Mahororo. Shattered from Nexus though, doesn't really get anything done. It goes down, and this is where the damage starts to mount. So Jupiter, they do still get it over the line. That was the critical part for them to get through.
0.66, that would have been a heartbreaker to be stopped at, but now clear skies as we head outside into the outdoors, and does Hengi go on to a Widowmaker? Does Jupiter go on to a DPS comp? There is argument to not do it yet, because you do have ultimates coming on, like Hengi's kind of hiding on the side.
Yeah.
At least for now, West Step nearly looking into Earth Shatter.
Try set up a momentum play, get a good shatter out of West Step, charge up a grab, then use the grab for the next fight. But if that starts to fall short, then I do think they should swap back to DPS.
Lewis nearly on another EMP, block Shatter as well.
Straight into a Zarya bubble as well. This is where Jupiter, not in the hottest position, and also has a Transcendence if things really do start to heat up. Ken Mahororo self-destruct, that could do a lot of work. Burner goes down, actually a Ting as well. Ken Mahororo getting aggressive. Now Nexus goes down, a little bit of a sitting duck there, so Jupiter don't really need to swap just yet.
And they need to keep winning these fights because you only had 1 minute 30 walking into C. To cap in 1:30 means basically you can't be reset at all. You need to be winning the entire time. There's going to be a lot of stalling yet to be played. And getting the kill in is absolutely massive.
That's with Movie trying to wrap around the back, but Claire's aware of it. He's ready for it, and he's got the sound barrier. And in and dying before that was already a tough spot to be in. Good shatter from Nexus, but the grab means no one can follow up on it. And again, immortality field from Anakin. This is getting a lot of mileage, a lot of value. The Batiste here, self-destruct, creating space. Nexus goes down, and finally commits a Transcendence, but there's fewer and fewer members on the point over with each passing second.
Oh boy.
That's a full cap.
And they did it in, I believe there's even a few seconds remaining.
Actually, a reasonable amount here.
Look at the verdict on that. 16. We say it's like 16 more seconds than you expected because they only had 1:30 push in.
I don't know that I was expecting them to get through B.
Well, that's the thing is they've already far exceeded that expectation, and part of the way they got through B was by basically continual pressure on the actual objective to move the cart along. And that sounds like really a basic thing to do, like why wouldn't you move that along? But usually it's quite hard to do. Usually it's quite well contested. And you can see towards the end that because Jupiter already had the actual cart most of the way through, once they won that final, once they kind of won the second to last fight, they had one more engagement at exactly this point where a final EMP was going to be used. And then after winning that one, Jupiter got the cap. They were in a position where they were going to secure B. Now you have to look at Nova and you think, possibly going to take a long time to get through A. Note that Jupiter got through A quite quickly, as you would expect. Not super fast, but fast nonetheless. So Nova have to try and keep up.
I am concerned, though, because Jupiter are back on that B word. Jupiter are back on the boats. I don't know, they're back on Sombra 3-3 or 3-2-1, I suppose.
So what's the B word?
Well, I can't actually say it on broadcast. There it is. The B word is broadcast.
I thought the B word was back. It's like, well,
I'm also I'm pleased to announce that the aforementioned football clip is in the match thread as promised. So, feast your eyes.
Well,
but in all seriousness, I am concerned for this composition for Jupiter. I was also going to say that this isn't necessarily one for them just because they capped out C. They do still need to actually hold somewhere, and I mean they've struggled with.
So. By the way, Hengi is actually on Sombra to start with. Still a decent Sombra map, we talked about that already, but Jupiter going to be really trying to opt for this strategy instead, and it's questionable. We'll see how it works.
I mean, I feel like Nova MS kind of have the right read here anyway. You would feel that those DPSs will get more mileage for Jupiter. I mean, it's just because this is what they've struggled on. Shylin does go down. One thing I am pleased, though, is because Hengi's on the Sombra, we do get Ken Mahororo on the Zarya. It's not that Hengi is inherently a bad Zarya. We often say, you kind of wish you had two Ken Mahororos because his Zarya is exceptional.
This now means that Hengi can't swap onto the Zarya, which means they're kind of stuck on this composition for the time being, unless Hengi goes on to another DPS, which might work. We'll see how that works. But for Nova MS, at least for the time being, they need to, first of all, kind of get cart positioning back in control, which they immediately lose.
Yeah, and by the way, Enon has actually set up a wraparound that Jupiter did not notice, and now they are sitting ducks in the middle of the road. They get absolutely torn to bits by the firing lines that Nova MS have set up. Jupiter do get a couple of counter trades back, but look, the card's been moving for a lot of this time anyway, so I don't even know if Jupiter get a second defense here.
And Jupiter need to burn away as much time as possible. If Nova walk into B with a lot of time on their hands, which we do expect them to eventually get to B, that is where they can make up for most of their time they will need to try and cap the map in completion.
Every time a Sombra gets detected, that Metal Gear Solid like exclamation mark sound plays in my head. But OWMS just pushing ever further forward. Dragon Strike slows down Jupiter's commit to the card, but they will at least get here in time for a defense. The question is, will they be able to do anything on that defense?
So far, outside of maybe 1 or 2 kills, it's been pretty quiet. Shailin, though, gonna make things loud.
That EMP from Hengi Movies was just that much better. Jupiter do still get a couple of kills in here, so with Westep and Sabagod still in the mix, they may be able to keep possession here, but the Rez is there onto a Ting. There's still some spam damage. OWMS still are set up all around this cap point, which means they can just range. Oh, okay. Also, 6 shot, by the way. And that is all, by the way, to say nothing of NovaMS having a closer respawn. So, honestly, I think Jupiter walked into what was a terribly unfavorable position.
And now Jupiter, okay, I will say they ended up kind of stalling the card for a long time. Westep didn't die for a while. He was netto boosted, held his shield up, waiting for respawners. Nova took a while to get him down. Eventually, Inan even melees him, then gets a couple of sick kills with his own sniper rifle. Now heading into B, Nova will lose a lot of this forward pressure because they'll be forced to go on to a 3-3.
That is actually a really important pick here. Having a Sombra ultimate when NovaMS make a swap, because I do expect them to make a swap, would be really nice.
And you see now, you just wonder how much further Nova can go with the top.
Jeez.
I guess with these kills, they can go a little bit longer.
Are you kidding? How did Jupiter end up in such a bad situation? I mean, actually, I can tell you how. NovaMS are doing a really good job of actually biding their time, putting all their DPSs around Jupiter, surrounding them, firing at them from all sides. And look, they shouldn't be getting away with it.
Yeah, exactly. You have to understand this is not ideal. What Jupiter, or rather what Nova are doing right now, they shouldn't really be able to accomplish, especially the further we get onto the speed point. Now grab is available as well. Anyone that gets caught in the grab is basically dead. There's only one support, one healer, and Burnett cannot save them all.
Dragon Strike out from a Ting. There's the grab. Yep, gets Burner, but that Dragon Strike got Hengi. How does it even happen? They do finish off the Ting. Westep's low, though. They're still in a bit of trouble here, but they have managed to get enough kills by the looks of things. And I think even if Westep went down at this point, they would still win the fight. So this is a very important defense for Jupiter to finally get. Importantly,
Nova get to keep the EMP here. You are going to see, I would hope, a lot of changes on their comp. Back to a standard 3-3. The EMP is important because A, it's a good ultimate, but B, even if they actually lose from using the ultimate because there's a lot of ults on Jupiter, they'll get some ult charge. They desperately need to restart this ultimate engine because with 2 minutes, they can still be held on B. They can still lose right here if they do not get momentum with ults.
Hengi does get his EMP first. That's a huge biotic grenade. That's more than enough for Jupiter to hang a defense on. And look, again, NovaMS will still be able to get an offense with their own EMP, but that was a huge time burner. They got no ultimate charge in there.
Yep. 11% for a Ting, 20% for Nexus. Mui doesn't get to use an EMP, and you have to note here, Mui will have to use an EMP. The sooner the better, because he could have already EMP'd, they could have already lost, gotten a bit more ultimate charge, and Mui would be on his way to his next EMP. He's already behind on charge by 1 fight.
And he had it first. He had it before Hengi. They could have tried to press that go button in that narrow window. Jupiter have the defensive ultimates as well, potentially against Mui's EMP. So we'll have to see how it plays out. Westep goes aggressive with a Primal Rage. They're getting
free push though. Nexus actually got that a fair way.
They do. That's they get the free push, and Westep gets picked off. Too aggressive. That's a huge error for Jupiter. They're not even going to need the EMP at this rate. Jupiter have just kind of let this one slide. This is just ridiculous.
And they're playing with Claire as well because they know Claire wants to counter it, so they're trying to contest them. While that's happening, they're just killing everyone else. So Jupiter kind of just fell bait to this one. They never really tried to find a play. They were so defensive versus the EMP that no one ended up committing. Claire was hiding the whole time. And now Nova like, well, if you're not going to actually fight us, we'll fight you, and we won't use the EMP to do it.
Now Jupiter are just behind. They're behind in ultimates. They're behind in time. They're just behind in every sense of the word. Look, now they could still pull out a hold here.
And let's not fool ourselves. With 2 minutes, it can be very difficult to cap. But look, the EMP should come in now.
There it is. Claire does not get caught. There's the sound barrier. Not quite in time for Westep or for Anakin. So the damage has inevitably been done. Sabagod takes a dive. Jupiter have to just reset this one.
And where they can really start to hold is in this final section of the map. Okay, that's the very important part, but at the same time, it is also where Nova will have the last bit. If they win that fight, they get to finish the map, and they have the ultimates to do so. So does Jupiter. If Hengi can get a nice EMP, which should be very well possible, looking at Bernard's positioning as well, he has to be the one to save his teammates. You
actually don't get to slow down the cart across that bridge really either, because you're waiting for them to get into the final stretch, so you can get a lot out of your EMP. That's a grab out. It finds
Bernard's so far away.
Grab here. Where is Hengi? Where's the EMP? Ting does go down early, so now maybe want to hold on to the EMP. Even if they just force a retreat, they push us into final fight territory.
Jupiter do the exact same thing Nova did on that B point when they won, which is to say, okay, if you're hiding from EMP, if you're playing this defensively, we can win without EMP because we'll rush into you, player advantage, your Lucio's really far away, and then just take your members down. They got a player advantage and Nova had to leave immediately.
Grab for grab is a trade Jupiter are happy to take as well because they still have that EMP. Look, Mubi is starting to get ever closer to his, but he might not get it in time, especially if this fight goes well enough for Jupiter.
30 seconds, this will be the final engagement here. Anything can happen.
It really genuinely could be anyone's fight, and if it's Jupiter's, they just outright win. If it's Nova's, we go to time bank, and then it's even more up in the air.
Jupiter don't have to fight here. It's Nova that have to fight, and the longer Nova wait, the less time they have, and then eventually they have to go anyway.
There it is. Finally, the EMP comes in, but it's not a good one. They do get Nexus, though. That on itself is big. But Mubi will have his own EMP, and he inevitably will commit it. West Dev is already low. He's going to get drilled down. This is where Nova MS can try and push back on end. Jupiter don't have a sound barrier like Bernard did. They do have closer respawn, though. Nano boost onto a Ting. He's trying to do what damage he can. He is hacked, but he does help find Hengi. Now it's going to be Anakin getting pressured out. He may just go down. No, stays alive for a long time, and that is wasted.
Shatter available.
A lot of time. Shatter could be big. It finds Anakin, but not much more. And they don't even get onto Anakin. Jupiter still close to respawn, but also still struggling. They haven't actually got kills for a while. They've only suffered losses. And it's going to be Nova MS able to push it through. And I just can't believe we even got to this in the first place.
And both teams are going to be taking us to time bank now. Our first time bank on Havana in the entire season. And I'm not going to speak to other regions, but I would say that the amount of times we even see time bank on Havana should be so low that you can possibly count it on one hand across all regions. So quite a rare treat, 116 versus just 1 minute. And we said this going into even this last fight on to see, but anything could happen. Back then, same now, anything can still happen. It's hard to tell who's going to come out ahead because both teams have been pretty good on multiple parts. What I will say is this 1 minute will take place on A, will probably finish on A, and for that reason, Jupiter may have the edge.
Just barely. However, look, anything may happen, but I would like to talk ever so briefly about what should have happened. The cart should never have got that far. There were so many places where Jupiter made a significant number of unforced errors. And in the absence of those, I see them holding on A. I see them holding on B. I even see them holding on C. And none of that happened. And that's alarming.
I think for both teams, really, because both teams ended up finishing the map and both teams really struggled to complete the defense at multiple points. We go back to the expectation that Jupiter probably shouldn't have been even able to cap B. You'll give them A because they had such a high advantage in terms of Widowmaker plays there, but going on to B, you're going back on 3-3 goats. That's not what they got on. It's not what they're favored on.
Yep.
And yet, here we are. It's the same defense again versus a standard Ryan Goats from Nova MS.
This position did not work the last time for Jupiter. They just kind of let the cart move, and when you're in time bank, you're playing to that objective. The more you let the cart move, the harder things are for you.
Huge peel as well, just getting a Ting away from Hengi there, keeping a Sombra alive, at least for the time being.
Look, Jupiter are going to have to pick their moment to at least go because you don't want to let it get all the way to the cap and then fight and then lose. They could have at least taken an early fight. They've just given space.
They're waiting to see if they can find position. They got to sleep onto a Ting now. Now maybe they can go in. You're starting to see them kind of turn things around, but look at the objective positioning. We're nearly around the final bend.
EMP is available. Hengi needs to stay alive critically, and that could be what they can predicate the off defense on. That is a good connection. In and in the nick of time. Can Jupiter still push it through here? They don't get anything done with that
overtime.
EMP. Now it's going to have to be a nano boost. After that, you've got Ken Mohororo coming up on grab. It's a stun on West Step. He is low. They haven't got any kills still. Now the grab comes out. Claire down.
Louis?
Shylin in the trade. Who is going to go down? What's happening here? Westep gets a shatter, and that's looking like that will be the alpha and omega of the defense. Nexus's own shatter. Too little, too late. So Jupiter will at least hold, but they only have a minute 16 of their own, and it is totally possible for Nova MS to hold in advance of that point.
I will say, though, the opposite is possibly more likely to be true here. I'm going to give it to Jupiter and say they should be now expected to finish this game with a win. They should be able to get the 2-2 here, take us to a map 5, because looking at this positioning, it's 116, but it's most of the way through A. A was their most successful point. A was where they had a really dominant display, and I think they can do that in 116. I think if Nova cannot find a way to deal with Hinky, assuming that Widowmaker comes back out again, this is not going to be a win for Nova. We are going to Nepal.
And at that point, I mean, Ilios was genuinely close. At that point, can Jupiter reverse sweep? I mean, this is
I've said it before.
insane.
We maybe kind of, landed on this joke at the halfway point before the break. We said, look, if Jupiter can get 2 maps, they can get 3. Easily. Well, I wouldn't say easily, but if you can get 2 maps, the third one is not that far away.
And look, even if Nova MS end up walking away still with a win, this is at least a change of fortunes for Jupiter, if nothing else. This wasn't a team they were expected to beat in the first place.
Now you're bringing up Nuns and saying, okay, how quickly can you jump into the game? Because this
You need
role
to get over
swap, role swap has not been paying dividends. Don't want to speak too soon. Could still be a 3-1. Nova
absolutely could.
very much close the door right now. Especially
what
because Jupiter are not playing the DPS that we thought.
And this is what Jupiter should have done. They should have gone forward. They should have looked for an aggressive fight. Even if this fails, there is still an opportunity for a second defense. And if nothing else, they burn time off the clock. They're even finding Claire. This is exactly what Nova MS wants to get done.
And I actually want to see Jupiter come out on the fire, come out on the Widowmaker, because you only need to play A. You don't need to worry about transitioning into B. Just go on your best picks.
Now they finally start to move on to the card, but look, Nova MS is still there. They want to keep this position. How many times are Jupiter just going to run away?
I mean, they don't want to play directly into the aggression. They want to find their opportunity, but there's other ways of doing this. Like I mentioned, they could be swapping comms, but at 30 seconds, it's a bit of a risk.
And like I said, Nova MS are doing what Jupiter should have done, and it may just be
Shatter available.
Maker here. This is absolutely absurd. As soon as they walk out here, they're walking into a shadow.
This is a waste of time for Jupiter to be trying to go toe-to-toe. Yes, Hingy will have EMP soon, but as soon as you win this fight, you will be in overtime. It's already down to about 10 seconds. We've barely left the spawn door.
This isn't even a neutral fight anymore. Nova MS charged up ultimates. Jupiter let them do that.
Innen has Transcendence as well, so now the EMP won't be nearly as effective.
Movie has slept though, and they find Nexus. That's
And in
big.
court.
That's actually really big, Jupiter. For all the criticism that I gave them,
But
they do still, when it counts the most, end up pulling something out of thin air.
However, you still have to finish this point. You are in the overtime. You have some ults to play with. Nova are about to get the same ultimates. Innen did die with the Transcendence. The silver lining is they will have this Transcendence now to counter the Graviton Surge. Claire isn't quite on the sound barrier yet, and this next engagement is do or die for both teams.
And this is why you set up far forward on Havana. This is why you take the early fight, because you get a second one. Nova MS could still win this
shatter.
fight. The shatter is big. Anakin's down. Westep is barely alive thanks to a nano boost pumping him full of juice.
Claire's coming.
He's dead. Claire, where's the rescue? It's not in time for Sabagon. Jupiter have got nothing. The EMP is here now, but it's got to be huge. It will stop a remake, but no one can follow up on the damage. Nova MS are rewarded for playing correctly where Jupiter did not, and they will win the series.
And I think if it was any other team, we go back to the notion, if it was any other team going on to the 3-3 at that point, or the 3-2-1 of the Sombra, you say, okay, this is fine, this is exactly what you should be doing.
Certainly
but
doable.
I wanted to see Jupiter not play that, because I knew that if you put Anakin on the fire, and this is assuming, okay, you can actually leave the spawn door, so there is a world where, out of respect for how aggressively Nova were holding, they maybe felt like we can't actually leave spawn here. We can't even get our fire into the air. Our plane can't even take off from the airfield, let alone drop the bombs. So maybe that's just not an option.
Yeah.
That is a respectable sort of case. But on the other side is you actually get those members out of there. You snipe from spawn. You have the fire in the sky. Who is meant to deal with that on Nova?
Yeah.
You have a Ryan here. You roll over them. And in most cases, you're like, well, that's bad because now we can't push into B. You don't need to push into B. You just got to win A, and you win the map. You take us to map 5. That was so winnable for Jupiter. It is upsetting that they didn't actually take us there.
And I think the thing that I find even more upsetting than all of that is how much of that felt like it came from Jupiter not understanding the map as well as Nova MS, not understanding what opportunities you're presented with. I'm gobsmacked that twice in a row on the defense, they set up, look, going really far forward isn't the only way to defend there on Havana. What they did do is still something that is done, but they didn't play it well. They didn't play it right, and it just...
The burnout throwers, if you're running a Sombra comp, you don't hold that close. Because you actually want the offense to push out such that your Sombra can get a flank. However, if they were playing more of a standard 3-3, you maybe would do that. It's still reasonably risky. You could even have a case where the defense just rolls on a Bastion and just shoots you down because they get the safety of spawn and you don't. And you only need a couple of kills as the attackers rather, even if you lose that attack, but you get some trades in there.
Yeah.
The respawn distance is so long for the defense that they have to back out. So...
It feels like defeat snatched from the jaws of victory there for Jupiter. And the unfortunate thing is, look, we talk about they pick up a second one, can you win the third one? Arguably, yes. Even if they hadn't, it still would have been something of a success story. Instead, we are still ultimately looking at a Jupiter that just doesn't measure up.
Sadly, this has been one of the most interesting games for them. This has probably been the game of the series outside of their opening match versus Xavier, which... You know, partway through that series, I think you switch sides pretty quickly. Go, well, no, Xavier's going to be winning this one. But in this one, I actually kind of felt like, look, Havana goes their way. Jupiter then goes on through Nepal. Like you mentioned, Ilios was close enough. Look, we could have been in the space where this is Jupiter's first win of the season. Would it be upsetting?
It would
to
have been
see,
a huge one.
Would it have been upsetting to see Nova drop here as well? Definitely. But you'd be happy, equally in the case for Jupiter, to get something because now that 0-7 result gets more and more likely. We already talked about almost a guaranteed loss versus Talon. Now that they've caught this 0-4, that will be an 0-5. There's only 2 more potential games they can take to try and get themselves on the board.
Them's the breaks. And with that, we have come to the end of the first day. We are officially at the